Uh, Welcome to the Saga of the Clone Saga, a podcast presented by the students of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're reading and talking about the entire infamous 1990s Clone Saga and some other stuff connected to it. Today we're going to talk about a bunch of stories featuring Carrion, all of them in the title Spectacular Spider-Man. And I think last time I may have forgot to actually do the introductions. So we'll do that here, even though technically all of our names should be in the little corner when we're talking. So mostly this just serves me since I'm on the club account. But I'm Vincent, and who else is joining me?
I am Nick. Hello.
I am Mike. How you doing?
I'm Billy.
And Nick, you want to handle our sponsor?
Yeah, our sponsor for this is this DVD that's on here, and we're going to see it's empty. So the sponsor is DVD cases because they're important too.
Yep. Is that a DVD case or is it a Blu-ray case?
It's a Blu-ray. Oh, okay. Backing up. Our sponsor is Blu-ray cases. So completely different than DVD cases.
So as far as collections, I usually try and talk about this real quick. Almost everything we're talking about is included in this original Clone Saga paperback, just like last episode. But also, we're talking about a wide range of issues today. So I'll be talking about the individual credits for the issues and if there are separate collections as we get to them in chunks. So the first chunk we're talking about is Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man 25 to 31. And those issues had a publication date of December 1978 to June 1979. All of them are written by Bill Mantlo, and all of them are penciled by Jim Mooney, except two are with Frank Miller on guest pencils, and all of them are inked by Frank Springer. And the cover price of these issues either had 35 cents or 40 cents. All of these issues are in Essential Spectacular Spider-Man Volume 1, if you want your stuff in black and white. And the two Frank Miller issues are in a lot of different collections. They're in the first modern paperback, which I think I have right here, so I'll pull it real quick. This thingy, and they're also in the Frank Miller Daredevil Companion Omnibus, as well as I think Marvel at points has put out, like they do like a Frank Miller Spider-Man collection. So now let's get into this. I guess a really quick overall, what did you guys think of this story?
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I don't think it's terrible.
It was just a slug to read. I
liked part of it.
I didn't care.
I kind of like Carrion, I guess, like him as a villain, but some of the other villains were pretty lame, and some of the side plots were also kind of dumb.
It read like a really, really standard Saturday morning cartoon, which made it hard to read.
So I think the opening is definitely kind of like that, where it's like this new villain, and this is Carrion's first appearance, shows up, and he offers to the Maggia crime family, he's like, I'll kill Spider-Man for you. And there's definitely some of that Saturday morning stuff because the story title for the first issue is Carrion, My Wayward Son, which just made me fucking cringe.
I love it. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of funny
for me, but like a snicker of like with rolling of my eyes.
Yeah. So this is Carrion's first appearance, and he just looks like, some creepy dude.
He looks like Thundercats.
I don't know anything about the Thundercats, so I'll take your word for that. So he throws pocket sand, and bullets go right through him. And Nick, there's an editor's note in this first issue that refers back to another Maggia story. And we actually talked about that already on the podcast. Do you remember why?
Cyclone and Moon Knight and Spider-Man team. Yeah.
Yeah, so we mentioned it because that's the next time Cyclone shows up. And that's also another early appearance of Moon Knight before he got his own series. How early on in Moon Knight is that? And there's like the Werewolf by Night stuff, and then
there's some
I know there's like
guest appearances. He's in the Defenders briefly, like Marvel 2-in-1.
Yeah, and he's in Hulk.
Yeah.
The magazine. And we get a whole ton of editor's notes early on in this arc. So over in Amazing Spider-Man, which is the primary book, he didn't graduate, which I think we mentioned that ahead of time as well. Because he missed his gym credit. Which later, like, they refer to like Peter as like an honor student and stuff like that. If he completely missed gym, like, is he still an honor student?
I mean, honors maybe like his GPA still could be high enough that he's technically an honor student. Like,
I mean, I guess.
Right, he never goes to class.
But I thought honor student was just based on like your grades for, like, if you get like 1 F, can you be an honor student?
Maybe he got a D. He just didn't get the credit.
Sure. And he also off-screen proposed to MJ, and she turned him down.
Classic.
And now Betty Brant, or I should say Betty Leeds, is hitting on him.
Mm-hmm.
A married woman.
Is Ned dead by this point, or is he still alive?
He's still alive.
Oh.
So she's just cheating on her husband.
Wow.
As you do.
I'm actually, this is still the 70s, so I'm like, I'm sure, I'm certain on that. Also, Betty mentions how her brother died. Nick, I feel like you've read this. Do you know what's up with Betty's brother? Do you know what I'm talking about at all?
No.
Okay, Betty's brother never died. He shows up again like 40 years later in Flash Thompson's Venom run as like a stupid villain. We get a King Kong reference. Did you guys catch that? Spidey's like swinging, and there's like 2 guys in a window, and their names are Jack and Denham.
No,
which is Jack. I think his last name is Driscoll, and I think Denham might be a guy's last name, but it's like 2 characters from King Kong. But basically, I don't know. Carrion's pretty boring.
I mean, compared to the Marauder and Tri-Man.
Well, yeah.
Just
I'll say Carrion's better than the Cyclone and the Grizzly.
Yeah. I don't know if he's better than Grizzly.
Actually, I might, because Grizzly's
issue so far
backstory is so hilarious, of Jonah possibly not knowing professional wrestling is rigged. Yeah, no, he's not better than the Grizzly. I take that back.
I also, in this first issue, both Nova and Fantastic Four get shout-outs. Because Spider-Man's like, oh, there's other younger heroes like me now. And then he's like, oh, and I don't have a team to fall back on. And they literally just are like, Nova appears in Nova magazine.
Yeah.
And so then, we get to we get this little interlude with White Tiger. What did you guys think of White Tiger?
Hold on. Only interesting in Bendis Daredevil.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that.
I want to say that White Tiger is fucking stupid, but also, before we move too far forward, when he was making that call out to Nova and the Fantastic Four, he's only like 2 stories above the ground, and he has his mask completely off in plain view.
Yeah,
I thought that too.
But yeah, White Tiger is stupid, and we have no reason to give a shit about him in this comic.
So. Yeah. So his Spanish is, and obviously I'm not fluent in Spanish, but like I have a general understanding of Spanish, and I've
borderline offensive
known people who speak Spanish. Yeah, his Spanish is like so awkward and half broken and everything like that, because they try and do that thing where he's like speaking English so that partly obviously so the audience can understand him, but also like that's something that, you know, Spanish speaking immigrants do a lot. Like they speak English and then they throw in Spanish words, but it just doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Because this is being written by Bill Mantlo, who's like white as hell. And so White Tiger was created for Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, which was a black and white magazine that was kind of capitalizing on like the Kung Fu explosion in pop culture in the 70s. And he was created to replace the Sons of the Dragon strip, Sons of the Tiger strip. And he was created by Bill Mantlo and actually George Perez in his first ongoing Marvel work.
Wow.
And so obviously it was created by Mantlo, so it kind of makes it like that's kind of makes sense why he's showing up here. And he's actually like a consistent guest star in Spectacular for the first like 50 issues of the run, which are mostly done by Mantlo. And Mantlo also basically did the exact same thing with Cloak and Dagger, where he created them, and I think they first appeared in Spectacular, but then they had like 20 of their first appearances in this book before they got their own series. Also, I don't know if you go ahead.
Hey, this issue was published.
This is like 1978.
Okay, so I guess this is at the time of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, because it says Marvel's TV sensation on the cover.
It's actually not Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It's the 1977 to 79 live-action TV show. No, it's
because I thought the show was in 74. Okay, no, yeah, all right, it would have been a live-action show.
Yeah, I think it is a CBS show. I guess it's like basically contemporary with the Hulk series, which also gets a shout out in one of these issues.
Yeah,
the next one actually.
Yeah, there's like a billboard, but
in the issues we read, there's also shout outs to the upcoming Fantastic Four cartoon with Herbie. Yeah, and they're really trying to push. Wait till you meet Herbie.
They keep showing all the characters, and then instead of the Human Torch, they'll show Herbie. I noticed that ad throughout the issue, and then they just.
Oh, you're talking about an ad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter to this conversation, but.
Well, you know why Herbie was in that show?
Why?
Because NBC execs were afraid of children seeing the Human Torch and emulating him by setting themselves on fire, so they decided to put Herbie in because they thought he was a safer character for children.
Okay, I guess.
I'm not joking. That's the reason why.
I don't know.
Yeah. So I think we already mentioned it, but what is it? The Tri-Man?
Yeah.
Is so fucking stupid.
He's so terrible.
He's a bird droid. He combined bird and droid and got bird droid, and he just transforms himself into a bird.
He's the worst action figure ever.
And I'm skipping forward a bit, but he's the Tri-Man because he has one form where he's a man, one form where he's a bird, and then the third form is he's a bomb. But like he doesn't introduce that until later. Like he doesn't attach the bomb until the end. So the name doesn't even make sense.
Also, the design for the bird droid changes in every single panel that it's in.
I think the Masked Marauder is pretty stupid too.
I agree.
Yeah, Big M.
Call me Big M. But he's not Big M. Big M is an inheritable title that he's just currently holding.
Okay.
The leader of the Magia is the Big M.
Doesn't make it less stupid.
So
I
then,
hate this entire issue.
All right. So now let's just move into the next issue.
We should talk at the end quickly. Spider-Man gets blinded.
Yeah.
He's shot in the eye, which becomes the two greatest issues of comedy ever.
But also, helicopter vacuum.
Helicopter?
Oh yeah,
Are you forgetting the helicopter vacuum?
But I like MJ and Betty run into each other at Peter's apartment, and their conversation is just so cringy. I think this conversation would make Alison Bechdel very, very proud. And I think it's actually in an issue past this. Yeah, it's in 27. But MJ tells Betty, just because we're seeing the same guy doesn't mean we can't be friends. Which it's kind of understandable. Definitely, a guy definitely wrote this story.
Things were different in the 70s, man.
Also, MJ refers to some incident at the disco, and that's referring to the issue directly before this arc, issue 24. And that issue, At the Disco, was the first appearance of the infamous Spider-Man villain, the Hypno Hustler. And also, I like how White Tiger, because he's Hispanic, he has a picture of Jesus in his apartment. It's like Jesus with a heart.
Actually, Jesus to him.
I like how he's Hispanic but drawn like a white man with a mustache.
Yeah, they just kind of put him. I mean, his like hair texture is a little different, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. His skin color, he definitely just looks like a white dude.
More pale than Peter.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't know. You can argue either way because he's Puerto Rican, and like in Puerto Rico, the skin color can range so widely. So now let's just get to 27, where we now have the start of the Frank Miller guest issues.
I liked Spider-Man just fumbling around and just falling off of shit.
Yeah.
The best part of this issue is that when he's in the doctor's office, he just starts trashing stuff because he's like mad that he...
Yeah, he just throws a tantrum.
He's such a child.
Yeah, he acts like a little bitch, and I love how at one point, I think this is also in like the next issue or something like that, but Daredevil's basically like, I gotta watch myself because if he throws another tantrum, he might accidentally kill me.
Yeah. He's like he literally treats him like a kid. He's like, I can't let him he's like, oh, my spider chaser can trash it. And he's like, and only my spider sense can do it. And Daredevil's like, I better not let him know that my radar sense can track it too.
He's such a good older brother. Like, honestly, he's so supportive to him. And he's such a better character than Spider-Man has been in any of the issues I've read thus far.
Yep. Also, I don't know if this is purposely. It probably isn't, but Frank draws Daredevil a billion times better than Spider-Man. Just want to point that out.
So, Mike, you want to talk real quick about Frank Miller?
So yeah, Frank Miller. This is 1976, and as many of us know here, that Frank would go on to have a character-defining run, and like one of the top runs in comics all time. Being the writer and artist on Daredevil, and just kind of giving a little bit of time frame here. So he would. This is actually the first issue of like superhero stuff he did for Marvel. Before that, he was doing like John Carter of Mars stuff. So this is the first time he's drawn Spider-Man and Daredevil. He did not draw the cover for this issue. Dave Cockrum did the cover, I believe. But he would kind of giving a little bit of a time frame here. This issue of Spectacular Spider-Man is 1979, and 2 years later, he would become the sole writer of Daredevil in January of '81 with Daredevil 168. He would be the artist on that for a number of issues before that, though. While Roger McKenzie was writing. Yeah,
I think he actually starts drawing Daredevil like pretty much. Like not too long after this, like it's a few months.
Like a couple months.
So, it kind of makes you think like, what if he had started drawing Spider-Man instead?
Yeah.
Like what if he was the ongoing artist on Spectacular Spider-Man?
Well, I mean, Frank pretty much saved the Daredevil book because that book was bi-monthly when he was on it, and then it became monthly by the end.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get into like the editor's head because what I'm thinking probably happened was like they just randomly put him to guest on these issues. Like maybe Jim Mooney was late or something like that. And then they're like, oh, he happened to draw Daredevil well, so let's throw him on that book, which is failing and needs an artist.
And this is 27, and 28, he has one of my favorite panels I've ever seen. Right. Yeah, he has one of my favorite panels, and I think in 27.
Which one's that? What is it?
I'm scrolling to find it. It's when Daredevil's fighting all the guys in the base, and there's like this awesome close up panel where Frank. I don't know if Frank's the first person to do this with the radar sense, the circles around the head. But there's an awesome page like while he's standing on a rooftop. It's like the classic Frank Miller, dark and shaded, a close up of Matt's face, and the radar sense is going off. But later when he's fighting guys, there's a close up. It's like It's like a couple panels across, and it's like Daredevil's face split, and then the Billy Club in the middle, and it just looks so cool.
Oh yeah. I think we get some cool stuff like we see Frank Miller doing the thing where like when Daredevil's jumping, you see like the little like faded silhouettes behind him.
Yeah.
And then
it's like right at the beginning of 28. It's Daredevil's face is in the middle with the radar sense going off, and it's him jumping around beating guys up with the Billy Club.
Yeah. And there's some really cool radar sense panels. I think there's one where it's like 3 panels in a row, and it's like all slightly different versions of the radar sense. And then there's a cool shot where it's like a horizontal panel, and it's like Daredevil, like kind of like crouched or like standing or something like that, but he's all in shadow, so like his body's all black, but you still see the double D's.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if because like I haven't read a lot of early Daredevil stuff. I'm wondering if Frank's like the first person to draw stuff like that, because like that's gone on to be like a signature thing about how people would draw him afterward. But Daredevil gets put over a lot here. Like he takes out that whole base of bad guys like by himself, while Spider-Man's strapped to the Tri-Man, which is now a bomb.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of weird too. Like you'd almost think that like this was like a guest writer and artist like 2 issues. Like if like you'd think that they brought in like the Daredevil writer or something, because Spider-Man just looks like he is blind, like he is incapacitated, but like he just is made to look like a complete idiot and like a jerk also. Like
because he is.
But once again, I'm agreeing with Billy. Like the more and more we read Spider-Man, I think he's just a dick.
No, but I think like I even felt like I feel like I felt a difference between these 2 issues, or the issues where he's blind, and then right before and right after. And I not beyond just the obvious, like, okay, he's blind now. Like he felt like way more incompetent and of an asshole.
He's like
beyond being blind.
And like he's like, I can't do anything, I'm blind. He's saying this directly to Daredevil, and as like as us as reader, like Daredevil is like, yeah, Daredevil's fine. Like
it's hilarious too.
Suck it up.
At some point he's like, oh, I must be the first sightless hero.
Yeah.
And it's like an editor's note. It's like, nah, dog.
Yeah, it's just like not quite. Something like that.
And it's by that point that I think Matt is just like I just let him be, but he wants to just clock him.
I wish he did.
The most interesting thing is usually Spider-Man like comes and like is the one to comfort Daredevil when he's down. So seeing Daredevil do it to Spider-Man is just kind of weird.
So the Masked Marauder calls up the mayor, and he's like, I'm gonna bomb the city.
He Dr. Evils him.
The mayor here is Ed Koch, or my bad, I pronounced it wrong, Ed Koch. And Ed Koch served as the New York City mayor from 1978, which is when this was published, to 1989. He was a Democrat, but he was kind of a different, cut from a different cloth, because he cut spending, cut taxes, and he cut a bunch of government jobs. He was pretty popular in New York, and he even crossed party lines a little bit. He endorsed Rudy Giuliani for the mayorship, and later George W. Bush for president. And here's the real interesting stuff.
Why are we talking about this?
Because just wait. Here's the interesting stuff. So
wait, pause. Can we guess? Is it a scandal?
Sort of, not really. Yeah, sort of.
All right, Billy, you go with your guess. What kind of scandal is it?
Sex.
Nick, what are you going with?
I think it's a wholesome scandal. Like he built too many orphanages.
I'm gonna go with it's like a racketeering crime scandal.
What's racketeering?
So his private life was pretty mysterious. He was a lifelong bachelor, and he had no children.
He was gay.
And there were rumors always that he was gay, but he never once made any comments about whether he was gay. He was never caught with anyone or anything like that. But in his initial campaign for mayor, one of his opponents was Mario Cuomo, who, some of his relatives are still in politics today. And Mario Cuomo's campaign ran a slogan at one point that said, "Vote for Cuomo, not the homo."
Yeah, I remember that.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So
do we think
we gotta talk about these topical references. But technically, like, if you want to get technical in continuity, you'd have to insert like Bill de Blasio for this scene, or I don't know, it might have been Bloomberg. I'd have to check the sliding timescale.
I'd love to see the sliding timescales of the New York City mayor.
So Spidey and Daredevil track the Masked Marauder to this building, and the bird droid has the bomb, and Spidey deactivates it. But like, it still kind of blows up in the middle of Central Park.
Yeah.
Spider sense somehow becomes stronger because he can't see, so he's able to like sense how to.
All right, that's the other thing. We gotta think. How does Daredevil's powers actually work? Because it's not. Doesn't Daredevil technically have powers?
Yeah.
Well, in part to the chemicals.
It's not even powers by the end of it. It's just enhancements from getting the chemical waste spilled in his eyes.
Yeah, but it's like
but it's
powers. I'd say.
But it's due in part to the chemicals. It's not just he's blind, so all of his other senses are amplified.
No,
the waste amplified the other senses.
Yeah.
But in reference to Spider-Man, I think they say that like his spider sense is like filling in where like the acid or chemicals or whatever would have for Daredevil. So it's like his spider sense is making his hearing better or some shit and giving him radar.
Again, spider sense is not consistent at all.
No, it's not.
And then apparently we learned that while he's been blind, like multiple days have passed.
Yeah, like 2 whole days.
Mm-hmm. Well, he
and Spidey
one night like on a roof or something. So, and then he sleeps at Daredevil's place after this. So I guess 2 days makes sense.
He sleeps on the couch of Nelson Murdock in costume.
Yeah, I don't know how was Daredevil just like, you can sleep on these guys' like couch. I'm tight with them.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because earlier he takes him to his own apartment and is like, "Oh, I'm risking this, but I think I'll be fine." So like, and then I don't know.
I thought they knew each other's identities, or is that later?
It's gotta be later.
Spider-Man was about to reveal his identity in case he died.
Part.
Yeah, he's like, the police will identify me. Don't worry about it.
I thought that was hilarious because it's like one panel where he's like about to make this momentous decision. It's like, I wasn't even like, I guess it was sort of like in case I die.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was also like it was also written like, oh, I'm about to tell my friend who I am, even though the stakes are high. But then like instantly he's like, nah, I'm probably good.
There's a moment where Spider-Man says, "Well, I've never been a quitter." I'm like, no,
he quits temporarily.
You quit,
but never for long term.
So he shows back up and his apartment is trashed, and there's a message that we assume is from Carrion. It's from Carrion, but also we get to see Detective James D'Angelo, and James D'Angelo was also a character from Deadly Hands of Kung Fu.
Okay, so that's where he's from. I'm trying to figure out, I don't know if the issues are bleeding together or not for me, but there's a moment where Spider-Man shoots webs at cops, and just another moment of Spider-Man being a dick to cops, but I guess that...
Yeah, when he's blind. No, it's when he's blind.
When he's blind?
To cover.
Yeah, he goes like, he's like, makes a giant web. I love how he's like one of the cops is like, oh no, his web is creating a net to trap us. And so Spidey's like, Spidey's like, oh, well, I guess it worked. Like, I guess he was just going to get shot otherwise.
There's a reason
one of the cops didn't yell out.
Why cops hate Spider-Man. He's always assaulting them.
He's a menace.
He's misunderstood.
So then we move into...
Daredevil just calmly throws his billy club and he's like, hey, he's fine. Like, he handles that much more maturely and professionally.
Yeah. And then we see Carrion getting up to more stuff, and we see that he's recruited. Is his name Randy? I think it's Randy Vale or something Vale.
There's one weird thing that I thought, like, okay, so right when he gets his sight back, it's like it says that the memory of his alternate mode of sight fades, so he forgets that he could see when he couldn't see or something.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He forgets how to use his new radar sense.
As soon as he gets his eyes back, he forgets that he could see with his radar thing.
Yeah.
What?
This book reads like it's the secondary title.
Okay.
I mean, chronologically, it's kind of like the tertiary title because this is after a team up. But I mean, it's the secondary title. But so
Isn't White Tiger supposed to have ears, like cat ears?
not really, not him. His later ones do. But so Carrion has got some student to work for him and has given this student a costume and like some gun and stuff.
Mhm.
And he goes by Darter.
Darter.
And Darter's terrible.
He's terrible.
He's discount Kite Man.
Hell yeah.
And the deal he's made with Darter is that he's going to give Darter spider powers.
Yeah.
And Darter's like, that's what's going to save me.
Yep.
Um,
The best part is where Randy Vale runs into Peter Parker and he's like, I hear you're going to be my TA. He's like, I'll see you around.
Nick,
You're like, that's not ominous at all.
in issue 29, we get a reference to a Delphic oracle.
Ooh.
What is that? I feel like that's definitely a Greek thing.
Yeah, it's the oracle in Delphi that you would go to like get the prophecy of
Okay.
Apollo. It's like this special woman who lived in a cave.
All right. I hope we get more Greek references.
Greek major is finally useful.
I mean,
Ooh, don't let your mom watch this video.
that's not what this podcast is about, guys. Come on, stay on topic.
The most interesting thing of these issues for me was the bullpen bulletins advertising comics I'd rather be reading.
So Carrion knows about Gwen Stacy and Miles Warren.
Yeah, did you see when they were fighting? Again, it was like his spider sense wouldn't really work against him, so it's like throwback to.
Well, I feel like that was like he's dead or whatever. So like, would a spider sense go off for a zombie?
No, but
it
then
I don't know.
vampires, doesn't it?
in the later issues, we find out that it wasn't actually,
Yeah.
So it totally should have gone off, and it's just lazy writing.
One of my favorite quotes in issue 30, Spider-Man says, "I've been avoiding the IRS for years."
Yeah, I wrote that down. He's trying to make a joke, but it sounds like it could be serious or something. I don't know.
Spider-Man doesn't pay taxes.
Yeah, I love the idea that Peter Parker just hasn't ever paid taxes.
I mean, because he probably just gets. I mean, I know he gets checks from the Bureau. A lot of it probably is just cash from.
Probably doesn't
photography.
Yeah.
have enough money to actually qualify to pay taxes.
I
like
feel
how
like
this fight happened on ESU campus.
Yeah, they're like around a pool, and then you just see
They
White
start
Tiger.
off the basketball court, then they go to the gymnasium. Like the way this fight goes is like if someone started in the IM building and then went to the White building, it's crazy.
so. We learned then. I think this is what Billy was talking about. Like Carrion is a clone of Miles Warren
He calls himself the
So-
anti-life.
at this point. And then it's kind of a shame that Matt's not here because I think he's made fun of this before. Even though I don't really know if he's read this. I don't really know, but I feel like he's made fun of the spider amoeba.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hold on, before we get to that, during the fight on the campus, Carrion says, "Oh, I can repel organic matter," and I was like, "All right, I mean, okay." And then he falls in the pool and he repels the water. Water isn't organic matter, so you need to fuck right off. And not only that, but it's chlorinated water, so it's extra inorganic. So
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, if it was an outdoor pool and like it was really grimy, like sure, kind of. But yeah, that didn't make any sense. And even later, like you could kind of argue with the Earth, like that's apparently how his teleportation works. Is he like can like repel himself from the Earth?
Yeah.
That's why he's levitating.
But that's still stretching it a
You see
bit.
that he has telepathy, and then you find out later that he doesn't actually have telepathy. Smart guesser or something like that.
Yeah.
Which he
Well,
directly read Peter's thoughts in this issue, and they retcon that shit.
Well, here's the thing.
yeah,
If
it's a
he
retcon.
accurately read the thoughts, why doesn't he just read Peter's thoughts to understand that Miles Warren's actually evil?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like he has all the memories up until like, well, Miles, I guess when they has his final fight, and like he doesn't believe that what Peter is saying is true about Miles, but he can.
It only gets funnier when he fights Carrion 2 and takes him to the grave of Miles Warren.
But I think it's crazy because like Carrion is like OP as fuck. And at one point, Spider-Man also he like says like Carrion is the most threatening villain I've ever faced. And I'm like, is Bill Mansell like really trying to build up like Carrion as like this ultimate villain?
Well, here's the thing. He's stupidly powerful, but also like gets defeated
By an amoeba.
really easy ways. Oh yeah,
Right.
I can't wait with this fucking spider amoeba.
Yeah. So what you guys think about the spider amoeba?
It's my favorite Spider-Man.
Comes back out of this issue.
I don't think it does.
Damn it.
I'll check that.
It just
I guess Bill Manslow is into hentai. That's
yeah. I mean, that's my thoughts.
It's funny too because like he tries to use like some pseudoscience narration to explain what the amoeba is doing.
it's like your brother, Parker.
And we see Darter try to like he feels that he's been betrayed because he's not getting the spider power, so he just gets attacked by the spider amoeba, and his flesh just like gets melted off.
No, he doesn't get attacked by the spider amoeba. He gets pocket sanded.
Oh, okay, sorry. But you still you just see his skull.
And the fucking chances that he drops his ray gun and it just so happens to shoot the one thing in the room that it needs to save Spider-Man.
All right, update. It looks like this is the one and only appearance of the spider amoeba.
God damn it!
Unfortunately, it did get an entry.
It should have been.
Dan Slott, you got one story left. Bring it back.
It did get an entry in one of the Spider-Man encyclopedias. There.
I will read every single issue of Dan Slott's Spider-Man run if his final story he brings back the spider amoeba.
He had his chance too because he did a clone sequel.
I know.
So which we'll get to eventually, but he missed the opportunity. And so yeah, Vale Darter dies.
Yep.
And Carrion does sort of.
I like.
Even though like the Carrion death isn't very like that one's not very definitive. Like
yeah,
I don't remember exactly what happens.
Yeah, he gets eaten by the amoeba and then.
Oh yeah, never mind.
I like when he's crawling away from the amoeba, he picks up Darter's skull and he's like, "Well, shit, maybe I shouldn't have killed that guy."
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, man, I'm sorry."
Then we get to the bullpen bulletins, and the issue is Uncanny X-Men 122. And man, I wish I was reading that. And then we cut to Spider-Man sleeping. He just crashes himself out a window and just sleeps on the nice cold snow.
Yeah, and is there snow outside where all you guys are? There's a little bit here.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot.
We got more today, actually.
But hold on. So he crawls out a window into the snow. All right, but in the issues to come, they reveal that lab is in a basement.
That is true.
So where is that window at?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. No,
they show White Tiger come out of it too.
He crawls out of it.
Yeah, and a few pages earlier, you see White. It's like it's like one of those like just window like right above the ground level.
Yeah, it's drawn like he's falling outside though. That's why.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other thing is, I think was it a few issues before where wait, when does White Tiger's girlfriend show up? Is White Tiger in the next story too?
No,
she shows
he's
up
only
at the library scene.
Yeah. I love how like she kind of fucks up everything. Like she comes in the room and turns on the light and it just fucks up Spider-Man because it activates like his like partial blindness again for a minute, so he gets choked, and then he pretty much like can't do anything because then he's Peter at this point, so he pretty much can't do anything because then he revealed that he's Spider-Man, and then like he's constantly trying to like run away from his ally White Tiger because he can't have him hearing Carrion say Peter. But also like there are points where Carrion says Parker, where like White Tiger is in panel, but like I guess he's just barely far enough away to not hear him.
Well, Spider-Man makes a point of that. He's like, I gotta get away from White Tiger so he doesn't hear the Parker.
Which is pretty dumb.
Yeah.
All right. So then, any final thoughts on that story? All right. Yeah.
I'd rather not think about it anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a few behind the scenes things. So Tony Isabella, who had no direct like connection with this story, but he was at Marvel at the time. He's known for like Black Lightning, and he also did some like Luke Cage stuff. He shared at some point that Carrion was originally meant to, instead of being a clone of Miles Warren, Carrion was originally meant to be the Spider clone. Because he's like, I don't know, he's like dead and rotting and stuff like that, like from the like incinerator or whatever.
So was Miles Warren.
Yeah, and so they didn't go with that, and then also he was originally supposed to somehow, like, this is somewhat related to the whole clone ongoing stuff. He was supposed to be using salvaged Goblin stuff, which, you know, like it kind of makes, you can kind of see that because he has like the pouch thing. He throws shit out of his pouch.
Isn't that like Hobgoblin?
A little bit like a goblin.
Yeah, and even like the levitation, like he may have supposed to have had the glider.
Okay.
And then, well, the thing is Hobgoblin, and Hobgoblin shows up in a few stories that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But also, some people think that Carrion was possibly, in fact, part of the inspiration for Hobgoblin, because Hobgoblin shows up later, under Roger Stern. All right, so moving on, the next thing we're talking about is Spectacular Spider-Man Annual 8.
Oh boy, this issue.
This cover. This is several years later. We're now November 1988, so like a full decade later.
Yeah.
This is written by Jerry Conway and it's drawn by Mark Bagley. This issue, as well as the next one we're going to be talking about, 149, are collected in Spider-Man Tombstone Volume 1, and just the annual is collected in the Evolutionary War Omnibus. So I guess real quick, what do you guys think of this overall?
Thank God Mark Bagley drew this because it made it bearable.
Yeah, half of this should have just not been here. The Young Gods is just...
fuck the Young Gods, but I like Peter's kind of inner dialogue. I think it helps to make his character seem like less of a dick.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like that we're in the 80s now, and Spider-Man's costume gets that like slight overhaul, where the red is a little bit darker, the blue's a little bit darker. Peter's got, how I know how he's drawn, he's got that like a little bit longer hair kind of going on. So we're definitely in the 80s.
Yeah. So this is this is part of Evolutionary War, which this is like late 80s where both Marvel and DC were still like completely trying to figure out how to do a line-wide crossover. And so they did a few where it was, they'd have like bookend issues maybe, and then almost every annual across the line would be part of this tie-in, and it would be like across a whole summer. And it's an annual, so of course they were expensive as fuck. So like this issue was $175. Obviously that's way less than they are now, but like you add that all up.
Standard Marvel book now.
Yeah. And so it was like Evolutionary War all centers on the High Evolutionary doing some shit. I don't even know. but it was like Spider-Man is doing whatever, interacts with the High Evolutionary, and then the Punisher, and then Silver Surfer, and like it didn't make any sense. But like they all kind of ran into each other, but they were also doing their own plots. So we get a bunch of interludes in this issue about like the Young Gods and the High Evolutionary and stuff like that. And all of them, except for the first one, like are 100% skippable. The first one, we just see that the High Evolutionary like wants the Gwen Stacy clone to test it because it's a genetic anomaly.
Yeah.
And so we talked about Bagley. So Mark Bagley handled the art on the annuals for both Amazing Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man in 1988 and 1989. And then he'd eventually get on Amazing Spider-Man in 1991 after Eric Larson left to go do that thing called Image. And then obviously years later he'd have with quite a different style, he'd do Ultimate Spider-Man with Bendis. So he's like, you know, one of the really prominent artists on Spider-Man through the years.
Mark Bagley.
I think his art's pretty good here. Some of his faces are kind of rough. I think on the first page of the story, we get an important detail, which I believe this is the first instance of this. We learn that Peter Parker is not allergic to cats.
Yep.
Aren't
you allergic to cats?
I am allergic to cats.
Ooh, you make a poor Spider-Man.
I like the backstory for that though, which like it's supposed to make like Aunt May seem super overprotective, but like it's kind of weird. So I guess she like never let Peter touch cats and dogs.
Peter, no, you're allergic.
So I thought the Young Gods were this like Evolutionary War thing specific to the story, but apparently there's some Jerry Conway thing from his Thor run in the 70s, and I don't know why they're a thing. Apparently, like Marvel hated them too, and this is their like first appearance since that Thor stuff, like 10 years, like over 15 years ago. Another major thing is Peter's now married to MJ. So now we're getting into.
I thought they've never been married. They just lived together.
Shut up.
Well, they were engaged, but he missed.
Oh yeah,
just barely missed. What was it, like a door was locked or something?
Yeah, so the bad guy got away, so he had to chase him down and miss his wedding.
Yeah, and then he missed the wedding by like a minute, so they just decided, oh, let's not get married.
Yeah, but let's still live together.
Instead of like just delay it like those 5 minutes, or maybe even push it back like a day.
Yeah.
It really just makes Peter more of a dick, doesn't it? One moment in time.
Yep. I love some quick New York bystander banter where this guy says, maybe I should have stayed in Newark like Mom wanted. Which, I mean, in the Marvel Universe, that's good advice. I also like the MJ at one point has a little commentary on like her and Gwen, where she's like, if Gwen was a beauty queen, then I'm a pinup girl.
My favorite quote was when Gwen gets taken by about to be taken to the High Evolutionary, and Peter says, "Gwen always was a screamer."
Yeah. Yeah, I cringed there too.
There's a pretty cringy comment about Peaches in the upcoming issues.
Oh yeah. All right, so yeah, basically.
Should we talk about like the reveal?
Yeah, so the reveal here is that the High Evolutionary says, "Oh yeah, you're wrong. This isn't Gwen Stacy. This is some random chick who was like infected with a virus, like a cloning virus, which made her look and seem and have the memories of Gwen Stacy." which doesn't really make sense, but okay. And I like she gets fixed and like her hair changes. Like I don't know why did her hair change when she gets fixed.
When Daydreamer like touches her, she says she takes away her illusions. I don't know what is she doing there. She's taking away her memories of that event. Like what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean she's like curing her of the virus, but I'm not totally sure how that would change her hair.
I don't know.
If it's a virus, that also isn't that girl's powers, so she shouldn't have been able to heal her to begin with.
Yeah, and I don't think we don't get her name in this issue, right? Her real name, the fake blank one.
I think a better question is who cares?
Yeah, I don't care.
And then
so that's pretty much it.
20 pages of Young God stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's not even in my book, so.
Yeah, it's all part of. I don't know. I didn't read it, but then I don't know. At the very end, you just see Warlock kill High Evolutionary, and I'm like, okay, this isn't really Spider-Man.
You didn't have to read that part. I didn't read that part.
I didn't read any of it. I just skipped to the last page just because I saw Adam Warlock, and I was like, I wonder what he's doing, and then he just. That's
the same exact thing I did.
I mean, yeah, I was like, yeah, that was cool, but I was like, yeah, all right, whatever.
All right, so then moving on, we're going to Spectacular Spider-Man 149. And this isn't that far ahead from the annual. We're not skipping that far in time. This is April 1989. Jerry Conway's still writing it. Instead of Bagley, this is Sal Buscema on art. And at this point, let me hold this up again. You can see there's no Peter Parker in the title. They got rid of that with issue 134, which occasionally makes like organizing this title confusing. What do you guys think of the art on these next few issues?
Very, very Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane inspired.
The close-ups on MJ make her look like a man.
I don't know. It's funny you guys say that because like that's the thing is this run by Jerry Conway and Sal Buscema was running alongside Todd McFarlane on Spider-Man, on Amazing Spider-Man. And so I'd say like I think they're pretty different. I mean, obviously this is like a way different style for Buscema from what he was doing all the way back in the 60s.
I was gonna say, yeah, this looks totally different.
But I think it's really cool that at this during this era you had the two books, or these two books were very, very different in like style and stuff. Where you had Jerry Conway, who obviously we read some of his earliest Amazing Spider-Man stuff. He's an old school guy, and Buscema, who's, I mean, compared to McFarlane, he's still pretty old school. And I don't know, I mean, there are definitely some weird close-up shots, but I actually like Buscema's MJ a lot. I think she looks a little
panel of Jonah's face that just makes him look like Hitler.
This doesn't really matter, but this wolf thing that attacks at the beginning, we don't really see it again.
Yeah,
is that like
they don't
later
do anything with
skipped?
it.
Yeah, that was, I believe that was like an ongoing arc or something. It's like the Lobo something. I don't know.
All right.
That doesn't matter. That's the thing is these next few issues, like this Jerry Conway run, and if Matt was here, he could help me with some of this. But this Jerry Conway run on Spectacular Spider-Man, he was actually also writing Web of Spider-Man at the same time.
Okay.
In this book, he had a bunch of ongoing like subplots. Like you'll see in this issue, and then in the other issues, like which are like 20 issues later, there's a lot of stuff with Robbie Robertson and Tombstone. And I mentioned earlier this issue is collected in a trade called Spider-Man Tombstone Volume 1, and that came out a little while ago, and there's no Volume 2 on the horizon. And really, it should have been like 3 volumes or so, because like the ongoing subplot in this run is all about Tombstone, the like relationship between Tombstone and Robbie Robertson, where they grew up together in Philly and were like kind of friends, and then Tombstone's this villain and Robertson's like this journalist, and they have this feud. So the whole point of this issue is, okay, Gwen wasn't a clone, but what about all the other clones?
Yeah, this is what
Got to wrap up those ends.
isn't this where we find out that like in Warren's journal that he was in love with Gwen?
Yeah.
I
So
could
Peter,
barely read that cursive.
yeah, the lettering on.
Oh yeah.
So
Sure.
Peter finds a journal, and in the basement of the lab, and he reads the journal, and the lettering it's pretty bad. I imagine it's yeah. And so we learned that Miles was like sexually, romantically attracted to Gwen rather than like as a father figure.
Yeah.
I can get behind that retcon, you know.
And there's even like,
What's actually,
go ahead.
I just want to point this out really quickly here. But what I think is cool at the top of the covers of Spectacular Spider-Man, or it has all the characters that have meaning, like all the side characters up at the top.
Oh, for like the 160. Oh, some of them 161 and 162 do that.
Okay.
Yeah, 163 does not do that, but 161 and 162 do that. It's kind of cool.
But Miles Warren, in his journal, he even says not just that he's attracted to her, he wants to possess her at any cost.
Yeah.
And we'll see more like Jack will just getting even creepier as we go along. And we also see that some dickhead student, again, it's kind of like Darter. Some little student finds the Carrion virus, and we'll get back to that.
McBride.
So if Gwen isn't a clone, that still leaves. Oh yeah, the retcon here is that the spider clone was Anthony Serba, the guy that we thought he murdered. But like that doesn't.
He had to have murdered. We are shown him burning Anthony Serva's body alive.
Well, I mean that's like an implied flashback because he's telling it. But like when the Gwen clone breaks his conditioning and is like, "You killed Serba," then why does he break down and disable the bomb over his guilt for Serba if Serba's not dead?
Exactly.
That part's what doesn't make sense now. And then, so we've retconned the Gwen clone and the Spider clone, but what about Carrion? And then we move forward, and like I was saying, there's a bunch of Robertson stuff going on.
But like they also retcon like the explanation of Carrion's powers.
Yeah. So then, that student who found the vial, his name's Malcolm McBride, and he becomes the second Carrion. And yeah, Conway like tones down the powers from what Bill Mansell had him. They explain, oh yeah, he doesn't have telepathy.
Well, what's really funny is this fucking lab hasn't been cleaned up.
Yeah, I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, they comment that like there's supposed to be a police investigation, but it never happened.
Yeah, they just didn't do it.
Yeah, but like they didn't like go about and clean it up. They're just like, yeah, you know that lab that's like trashed and
probably a ton of labs just randomly in the Marvel universe trash like that. Like you got to give them some credit. Probably takes time to go lab to lab and fix these things.
But I mean, the way they do this second Carrion, like all things considered, it's slightly interesting. Where it's like,
no, it's not.
He has this like pre-programming where he like is trying to kill Spider-Man and he's like trying to avenge Warren, but like he doesn't even know who he is. And then as we go on, he like figures out who he is and stuff like that. But whatever, they fight like next to Gwen Stacy's, and I mean, I guess it's like a graveyard, but like Gwen Stacy and Miles Warren, their gravestones are apparently somewhat near each other.
He planned it.
he bought that plot. The other thing, like Spidey throws Carrion through a gravestone. Like, what if he accidentally threw him threw him through Gwen's.
I thought he threw him through Miles' gravestone.
I think he might have. I don't know if they ever totally show it.
But it might be. It's the same like structure. It has that square thing on the
Yeah.
top.
So then whatever, he defeats him, and then this ending is kind of iffy too because, well, first of all, he's like again, it's kind of like the end of the Clone Saga where you thought they'd already gotten through this, but he's like, okay, I'm moving past Gwen. MJ is the one I love. I'm done with Gwen. The end. But also he says, I'm gonna take Carrion to the Vault, and the Vault is one of those like super prisons in the Marvel universe. The Vault is in Colorado, which is very far from New York, and so Spider-Man's going to take him there. But also, then he just walks away. Like, when is he going to take him there? We don't see him dragging the body. So I guess he walks away for the dramatic closing, and then turns around and comes back and grabs the body, and then gets on it, and then
Hobgoblin is this?
which Hobgoblin? This is Jason McIndale.
Which one is that?
It's the one that's not the real one. It's like the replacement one.
Wait, no, Kingsley has the sword.
Kingsley's like the real one.
Yeah.
And the like current one. This is the one who replaced him, and then also this is the one that also during Inferno he mentions this. He got like demon sort of powers. And so this one evolves into Demo Goblin, right?
I don't know.
All right. Well, yeah. Okay. So moving into Spectacular Spider-Man. Did you guys read 161?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So 161. It's not like super relevant. It's not in my collection. My collection starts with 162. So these 3 issues, they're written by Conway, still drawn by Buscema. This is February to April 1990. 161, I skimmed a bit online. As far as that Robertson plot, he's pardoned, but that plot kind of still keeps going anyways. Spidey goes to Reed Richards, and Reed isn't sure if he can help, like, basically cure Malcolm McBride of the Carrion virus. And then Hobgoblin gets contracted by Hammerhead to kill Robbie Robertson.
But Tombstone doesn't like that.
Yeah, and then Puma now owns the Daily Bugle, and Puma, Spider-Man, and an unseen shooter stop Hobgoblin from killing Robertson, and the unseen shooter is Tombstone.
Tombstone, yeah, he can figure that out.
Because he's my frenemy. So if no one can hurt him except for me.
But like, why didn't he just kill Hobgoblin?
I don't know. Also, I think there's a fairly hot Robbie Robertson kiss in this issue. We get a nice splash panel of him kissing his wife right before he gets attacked.
3 days of freedom in 3 nights. What do we know? You know what debt Puma apparently owes to Spidey?
Explain it later.
They do.
He's like,
I mean, it's just
I
like a
pictured it in this article that I wrote or something, and so I sullied his honor, and by doing that, sullied my own honor, and so now I need to make it up to him.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like a life debt. It's like Chewbacca, but not slavery. And apparently, like, it has major loopholes, as we'll get to later. So moving on to the issues that are like actually more relevant. So like, I think, yeah, there's like I guess it's just with the Reed stuff where there's like a short flashback explaining some of the Carrion stuff in 161. Otherwise, it's not that relevant.
Yeah.
It's just part of the like it leads into the arc with the Hobgoblin.
Spider-Man like accidentally had dropped that note while he was fighting Hobgoblin. It was like, oops.
Such bullshit. Like, where did that note come from that he dropped it? Does he have pockets on that suit?
He stuck it to his back.
Yeah, he didn't make his web backpack. So yeah, with that little note from Reed, Javi knows who Carrion is, and he flies all the way to Colorado, breaks him out of prison,
Well,
and then they fly all the way back. And I love how the levitation, like, Carrion can't control his levitation at all. So he has to get, like, basically towed through the air.
yeah. He could like just go up a little bit. But he was being transported. I don't know if he was actually in Colorado. He was like in the back of a truck, so he could have been closer to New York.
But the best part of Hobgoblin breaking out Carrion is the way he convinces him is he pulls out a little Spider-Man like action figure or like a doll.
Yeah.
Like,
And he burnt
it looks like it's like a knit doll or something like that. So I like the idea that Hobgoblin made that himself just for this purpose.
He stayed up all night knitting that together.
It's very much like out of Spider-Man 3, where like how they team like you don't like Spider-Man, I don't like Spider-Man.
But that's pretty much any Spider-Man villain team up. Almost none of them make sense.
I also think it's funny how like in his like inner narration, Peter refers to Malcolm McBride as Carrion 2.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, do superheroes do that? Do they say like Green Goblin 3? Like when talking about like Phil Urich or whatever?
The only thing I can slightly remember that is the kind of they didn't say the numbers, but do you remember that moment in Batman Superman with Loeb and McGinnis where they're like walking through the sewers during like that first arc, and they're talking about, do you remember the good villains? And like there's like they mentioned one of the villains, and Batman's like, yeah, which one? So like they definitely acknowledge that there's different versions of them. But
I mean, they know there's multiple, but I feel like the whole like Carrion 2, like I feel like that was usually like originally that was just like a fandom thing.
Yeah, but no, like that's the first time I've seen like a person actually acknowledge the numbers.
Also, I like the ongoing thing where like Peter's walking through Empire State and like he sees like one of his like professors, and his professor's like, "Hey, you want to help me with like some experiment real quick?" And Peter's like, "No, I'll get back to you."
Yeah.
Can you help me? He's what he goes. Can you help me with an ethical question?
We have Peter rocking another nice jacket again.
The jackets in the last episode were better. There was nothing that really stood out to me in this episode. Pete's got like almost a half mullet kind of thing going on. That's the only thing that's kind of worthwhile here.
Yeah, I think if like Buscema, like his style's kind of, I don't know, I like it, but he does this weird thing with like the furrows of the brow.
Yeah.
Where he just kind of draws like jagged lines. It's really weird.
Here's the thing. I feel like he's kind of doing his best to match the style of Todd and Eric Larson, but I still prefer Eric Larson and Todd.
But I don't know. I guess you guys don't, but I really like his MJ actually. In this story specifically.
His MJ is fine to me. It's Nick and Billy that don't like it. I didn't really notice it.
I didn't say anything about it. I don't hate it.
I don't really care.
I do.
All right.
I don't really have an opinion.
It looks like MJ. All right.
And I mean, on that note, like that's another.
The peaches, by the way, Mike.
Yeah, that's the peaches comment.
Peaches, yeah, I do love your peaches. Right after your picnic.
See, the thing is, in a post-emoji world, that has another layer as well. But I think it's interesting because this MJ is like pretty different from McFarlane's. I don't know. So Hobgoblin and Carrion, yeah. So Carrion goes to his mom's house because he like knows who he is because of Spider-Man or whatever. He almost kills his mom, which is pretty stupid because I feel like he knows how his powers work. And then the ending of this issue is hilarious, where Hobgoblin and Carrion just like suck Spider-Man into the sewers through the manhole. There's like one panel
where he pops out of it.
This one panel where Hobgoblin's just like hugging Spider-Man and like pulling him into the sewers, and Carrion's about to just like go down after him.
Yeah.
and Carrion keeps getting nerfed, where he tells Hobgoblin, he's like, "No, I don't have telepathy at all," even though like he clearly did. And then moving into the last issue, 163. Oh,
Okay.
wait, no, there's one more thing I wanted to point out.
All right.
In the final panel, Hobgoblin and Carrion are talking, and Carrion's like, "Let me kill Spider-Man" or something like that. And Hobgoblin's like, "Yeah, in a minute." And he's like, "I'll let you get to that, but let me watch." Which it's just, I don't know, that's funny.
He's a voyeur.
Yeah, it's like a sexual thing.
Don't kink shame him.
Oh. I was just commenting on it. I didn't say it was wrong. On the cover of 163, above Spectacular Spider-Man, it says the non-mutant superhero. I don't know. What does that mean? Like, they're advertising that he's not a mutant?
Yeah, I guess it was like X-Men was so big now. It's like, this is not X-Men.
I just thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
All you mutant haters, you can read this. It's okay. Hasn't been tainted by muties.
So some creepy photographer. Oh yeah. So MJ is like, "Oh shit, Spider-Man's in trouble."
He's drawn real creepy too. I feel like
Yeah.
I've seen this guy pop up in so many other comic books. Like, oh, we need the sleazy slime bag looking character. They're all drawn like this.
Yeah. So then Nick Katzenberg, who's this like creepy like paparazzi guy, shows up, and I like how like I feel like I don't know exactly whether this gets brought back up again and how it does, but I feel like MJ and Peter's excuse should just be like it was a sex thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say they were just role playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
'cause
oh, I just have a Spidey costume for
Yeah,
the
they were
bedroom.
making out in the picture that he took of them from their skylight, which is
Yeah.
like, why the fuck were you up there?
But this guy was actually like a weird recurring character in Spider-Man at this point.
And then MJ just whams him.
Yeah, MJ just knocks him the fuck out. I love MJ in this issue.
Fall into the sewer.
MJ's kind of a badass in this story, which was, I mean, it's relatively rare. And it actually, like, I think this issue mostly, but this story actually shows how you can effectively have MJ as his wife. Because like what a lot of people complain about is like, oh, if they're married, like, and he has to still do Spidey stuff, like, oh, what, we're just gonna have MJ like sitting at home, like anxious and worried about him. And so like I think this story, like, it shows her actually like doing some shit, and she doesn't have to do that every time, but like if he's in like a tight bind, like she can try and help out somehow. And I don't know, it's kind of cool. I didn't mention it before, but this happens again in this issue. 2 times in the stuff we're reading, the editor's notes are wrong and refer to the wrong issues. One of the editor's notes in here refers to the previous story, which was in 149, but it refers to it as like 147 or something like that. So yeah, MJ like kind of helps, not really. Puma's life debt is bullshit. I love the security guard at the Four Seasons.
Yeah. Just lets her walk in.
Yeah, he's like, I hate this job. I hate this job. And then he like tries to stop MJ, and then he's like, I don't really care. I hate this job.
Don't pay me.
Hammerhead is drawn pretty ridiculously in Buscema's style of this era.
Yeah.
It's like in this like super like his head, which I mean that's the point, but like it's so over the top in some of these panels. It kind of reminds me of like the way Bill Everett drew like Namor's head in just like this nonsensical way. And so Carrion's like, oh yeah, my mom. Spider-Man escapes. Blah blah. There's a fight. He fights Hobgoblin, and then Carrion jumps in front of a bomb. And allegedly, both Hobgoblin and Carrion died, but neither of them did. Carrion shows up again. First, Hobgoblin shows up again, like literally like 2 months later for the Return of the Sinister Six arc, and that's Eric Larson on Amazing Spider-Man. And then Carrion doesn't show up too quickly. He shows up in a few years for Maximum Carnage, and Carrion at that point is just like a lackey on the Maximum Carnage team, and he sees Carnage as like his father figure, and I think Shriek is like his mother. And we're not going to discuss that because it's not super relevant, because this Carrion stuff is still like kind of clone related. But that's where Carrion would show up in Maximum Carnage, and then later we'll see more of Carrion. So what you guys have any other thoughts on this?
Disappointed by that statement that we're gonna have to see him again.
Yep. Well, the thing is, like,
I really hated every moment of this.
You didn't like the Frank Miller?
That was the only moment I enjoyed.
I like some stuff, like some scenes, but overall, it wasn't great.
I don't know. I liked like the last chunk after the annual. I liked all that, and I don't know. The Bill Mansell stuff is pretty iffy.
I just
Whatever
felt
happened to
like
Melo? I wonder what he's doing these days.
That's fucked up. He's currently in a vegetable state.
Oh no!
All right, so
no, why'd you have to go and make a Bill Mantlo joke?
All right, so I'll fill in Billy. So Bill Manslow. So the other thing is, this is early Bill Manslow, and like at this point, he was considered basically a hack. And
so this is pre-accident.
No, well, this is way pre-accident, and so it even got to a point where
has he written a Hulk yet?
No, it even got to a point where, or I'm not totally sure, but like in his early career, he was like considered terrible. And it even got to a point where the editor-in-chief like talked to him and was like, "I'm gonna fire you," but he couldn't fire him because he had like family connections and management.
Oh wow!
And then for a long time, Manslow was considered like the king of the fill-ins. Like he would just write random plots and stuff like that, and random scripts for like any issue. So like whenever a writer and an artist were late, Bill Manslow and I think there was an artist that was usually teamed with him. They would always just they were always reliable to like really quickly pump out an issue, and then obviously you could just skip that one, but whatever. And then later he had some acclaimed stuff. He did a long run on Hulk, which was like the first major run to make it like a really psychological thing. He also Bill Manslow created Rocket Raccoon, and he's getting some royalties for that. But those he can't really directly spend those royalties, unfortunately, because in fact at this point he wasn't even writing comics, because while he was writing comics he was studying for a law degree, and he had become a lawyer and was out of comics, and he was one day roller skating in the street. He wasn't like jaywalking or anything, like it was a crosswalk, and he was hit by a car. And so he's been comatose for like 20 years.
And they never caught the bitch.
I'm not actually sure about that.
No, yeah, I don't think they ever identified who hit him.
But unfortunately, like I don't know, Bill Manslow's like, and it's weird to talk about again, but like he's kind of a divisive writer just as far as his quality of his writing goes. I think this is earlier Bill Manslow. I don't know how this compares like time-wise to his Hulk, but this is not so strong.
No.
But if you read those issues and like them, or if you just like his other stuff, or if you want to support a comic creator, just Google Bill Manslow and you can figure out how to contribute to his fund or whatever to make sure his family can keep supporting him. All right.
If you liked these issues, then you belong in a comatose state yourself.
Oh my god.
I like the last year. All right. Any final thoughts?
Like I'm just disappointed, just because like there wasn't even like that much funny stuff we could point out in these ones. It was just kind of, and that's the worst thing, is that just like it's just bad when there's nothing to pull out that's jokey or funny. Like last episode, we were laughing hysterically over the Jackal assembling the jetpack on top of the bridge, and just how nonsensical it was. But like this time, it was just like, all right, well, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm at this point. We're technically 4 episodes because we had the micro episode. When do we get to see Ben Reilly? Like,
Next episode.
On that note, the next episode where it's like a weird little intermission where we're not into the actual Clone Saga yet.
God damn it!
But Ben Reilly shows up. So
We're going to talk about our Ben Reilly hopes and dreams for the future.
yeah, yep. That's the next episode.
You've done
we're
a well
basically
job to tease and build this up that I cannot wait.
So next episode should be a short one.
Yeah, next episode. We'll see. Next episode, we're just going to be reading a few. I have listed one, but I think there are actually more than one. But we'll see. We're mostly going to be skimming stuff to see like one panel mentions and appearances of Ben Reilly, and then we'll talk about. It'll kind of be like another micro episode where we'll be like, "This is what we're expecting. This is what we're hoping for. This is what we're
drawing
fearing."
this out as long as possible.
Yeah, that's the point. And then we'll get into the
We're
close.
building hype, man. We're building hype.
We gotta up our viewers before we get to the crazy stuff.
What
All right.
viewers? No one's watching this.
Exactly. All right. So on that note, thanks for watching and tune in next episode. Peace.
Bye-bye.
We did the sponsor, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still live.